another episode of Just Hashing It, the podcast all about opinions. It's the Opinionated Podcast. I'm here, Marla Pruitt.
Shamuko Costly.
Yeah, today we have some special guests in the room. Yes, we do. Because we're going to be talking about something. We're about to jump right into it. But before we do, I want you guys to go ahead now and click subscribe if you're watching this from YouTube. And click the notification bell so you'll be able to see when all of our shows like this are going to pop up. And if you're listening on all the podcast platforms, be sure to tune in every week here. But today, we have none other than, I don't know, I'm excited because Frank Ski is in the house today. Sound effect.
Hey.
Woo, thank you, Frank. Welcome. Welcome to Just Hashing. We're about to hash it out. And I had to be sure today to bring in we needed some more estrogen in the room to kind of balance out the flow so it wouldn't be 2 against 1 today. So I brought my friend Miss Keisha Cooper in today because she has a lot to say about a lot, especially when it comes to male-female relationship and interactions. Right, Keisha?
Yes,
welcome
correct.
to Just Hashing It, Keisha. So we're here. Welcome. We're going to jump right into it because we don't have no time to waste today. So I sent Keisha this. I invited her for a reason because I already know how she thinks. And she can articulate a lot of points way better than me. But so we live in Atlanta. Everybody always talking about, the whole thing that's overused today about men. Men are narcissists. If you get played, you're a narcissist. If a man, abuses you, he's a narcissist. If he, whatever, he's arguing, he's a narcissist. Then we hear about toxic masculinity. So those are 2 terms of 2019 that we heard a whole lot about. Would you agree?
Agree.
Do you think it's a real thing?
Yes.
So now, y'all, we're just having a conversation, so we ain't got to be like.
We see how you know what I'm saying. Everybody tuned in right there, real quick.
I just want to know if she agrees.
Yeah, I agree.
So you saw this what we talked about before. So I said we want to talk about toxic masculinity, narcissist. Like that's the catchphrase. Is it over applied? Because y'all might not think so. And then how this plays into, because patriarchy. What do you think about patriarchy? And I think things evolve over time. Relationships evolve over time. The balance, back in the day, women needed men because we weren't even considered equal to men. We couldn't vote. We had to stay at the house. Men provided for everything. But now we work. We're the most educated group of people in the country.
Yes.
So, patriarchy is dying. Do you think so?
Mm-mm.
You don't think so?
No.
What do y'all think? You sure chewing that gum though?
I was. Pardon me, y'all. Let me. Excuse me.
Yes.
This is a very delicate discussion.
Why?
I honestly believe because I give my viewpoint as a black man.
That's what we want.
And as a black man, and I'm going to say it like this: after doing that show, I realized a lot of different things after doing Ready to Love, like how things are perceived more so than how things really are, because of how one incident people will draw a whole narrative of that is who you are in general.
I'm so glad. So can we just go back and see, a lot of you all might be watching and don't know who Chica is. Chica was on OWN's Ready to Love season 2. And Chica got kicked off really early. And I was really glad. I
didn't get off.
I was glad because I didn't know you then. When someone suggested, I was like, I need a new male co-host, whatever. And they suggested you, and I went to your page. I was like, let me check him out. I didn't know who you were. And I was like, he looks so familiar. I just kept saying. And then I said, oh, that's that dude from Ready to Love. I said, oh yeah, let me see what he's about. I didn't contact you immediately because I just wanted to feel you out. Because you did did you watch the show?
Okay, before we get into that, because then I want to go somewhere else with it, and I don't want to go there with it.
But I'm glad you brought that up because that kind of flows in, because your response and your reaction to the ladies.
Yes.
In the show.
But it wasn't to the ladies. Let's get that correct.
To the lady?
A lady.
Yeah.
And when I said it, I tell people the same thing over and over again. Editing is something that if you've never been behind the camera, you will never understand because nothing is edited until the full frame, everything is done.
So they decide the storyline they really want to go with.
If you do something that wins, then immediately, you know what? This is the narrative we're going to frame him as. And I did have the whole Me Too movement after me there for about a month and a half. I was very quiet, very low-key, very hidden. Yeah, because I didn't want to respond to a lot of things because you read the comments and they're negative. And being a black man, and you know what I'm saying. I'm not gonna say we're overly sensitive, but things for us are very, very hard. You know what I'm saying. If you've never been in a black man's shoes, you don't understand that there's a fine line, and then there's that invisible line that we tend to wind up walking on that you all don't know anything about. So when you are put there in that set, it's very, very hard to still be the man. I want a king. I want a man. Like, you want all these things, but when you are presented with it and a man's aspect, like, okay, I can do all of these things. Sometimes women don't really want that. They just want the idea of you.
Well,
the security.
Yes, you know what I'm saying. I'm not, and I don't speak for you as women, but I'm sure you all have been in the circle before where you know what I'm saying. Because social media plays a role in everyone's life nowadays. Yeah. So when people say, when you wake up in the morning and you see all these hypotheticals, sis, what are you gonna do if you've been with him for years and he's on your couch playing video games? First of all, we grown. 9 out of 10 women not dealing with a man who's laying on the couch in the morning playing video games. It's just not. But there is that. There are those who do.
Excuse me.
You know what I'm saying? There are those who do.
Yeah, they do.
But
some of them do.
When it comes down to life, we put ourselves in so many hypothetical situations. When we read these on social media, eventually you start believing it, and you can look at the comments that people make. Like, that's not even logical what you just said. But once again, you feed into it, and then as a black man, if you try to defend yourself, it's like you can't be overly aggressive, but you can't kind of get your point across, because you know what I'm saying. That's just how our nature is. We talk with emotion. We talk with hands. We talk with gestures. And when you start doing that, and if your voice is...
Chick, everybody don't do that.
Okay.
All men don't talk with their hands and emotions.
Some men we dial it back. We dial it back because of the simple fact, as a black man, example, if you get pulled over as a black man, first thing you're taught is don't move your hands. Don't do nothing. So you already are facing a hard uphill battle. Now, when we talk to people at times as black men, a lot of us have base. And it's not that we're mad, and you have to consider where you're from. Everybody talks different. I'm from Chicago, so I may talk at a certain pace and my voice may carry. I'm not mad at you. My father's Nigerian. People hear my father talk to another Nigerian, automatically they think he mad at everybody in the house. That man not mad. That's just how he talks. And I think sometimes things are, as we stated earlier today, is very much perception versus how you receive it at certain times.
So Frank, do you think toxic masculinity is a thing?
No.
Why?
I don't think so. How could it be?
Is it a made-up word?
You don't think masculinity can be toxic? There are men who
toxic
really,
is when you use the word toxic. That means it's affecting everything around. Toxic environments affects everything and everybody.
Okay.
Toxic masculinity would mean that me being a toxic person, I would make him toxic. I don't think men have an effect on other men like that. I think women have more of an effect on a man than a man has on another man. So I don't think that toxic masculinity, you'd be surprised. I don't think toxic masculinity is something that is so prevalent.
But in the context of male-female relationships, you don't think that's prevalent?
No.
Or even in the context of social media, and when you see men and women interacting and men voicing their opinions.
But if you were to ask men, if this was a panel of men,
that's true.
They would think that there were toxic females.
And it is.
And the females, and there are more females that are loud, gregarious, boisterous, catty, and all of that. There are more females that do that than there are men, so I couldn't agree that there would be toxic masculinity.
I don't
feel that. Okay, let me say this then. Let me interject this.
And I don't think women do it on purpose. I think it's just a protective barrier that they put up. It's just a wall.
I think when we talk about this, what do you call it, toxic masculinity, I like to bring social media into play because it is something that everyone uses nowadays. So when people say, "Oh, I'm not on social media like that," that's like a person to me who says, "I don't smoke weed, but you smoke it occasionally." So you smoke weed. It doesn't matter. You're a part of it. When I look at a lot of comments and things that people say, I'll notice nowadays women are quick to call men bitches. Quick. But the same way you call a man a bitch is not the same way you're going to call him a bitch in his face. it is like it's hidden behind certain things. So when you've learned not to respond to those things, those are triggers. Bottom line, it's a trigger when you do it. And when you do it online, immediately if you do it, you're falling into what you all would label as toxic masculinity. Now you're going to impose the way that you are on me at the end of the day. And I think that's a setup.
Yeah. So I wanted to know from you though, when we talk about, because me and you, we've had a conversation about patriarchy, about, and that's just male dominate. The society, men have run the world, men run the world, men determine who goes to wars. Like when we have wars, when we have any type of things like that, most men start wars? No, all wars are started by men.
And some of the biggest wars have been started
over women. Thank you.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? You got to open that up. You got to
Okay,
open that.
y'all
I was going to say the other side.
What
But the
wars
other
have
side
been
of it,
started
listen,
over women?
listen,
I've heard that before.
Trojan War.
Can I say something?
Outside of that one.
Can I say something to you? If in my household, if I had beef with somebody,
Right.
and I was gonna take it to like the fighting stage, the influencer would be my wife.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
I would either go fight because
True.
she said go,
Right.
or I ring it back because she said ring it back.
Right. That's
so
true.
what I said in the beginning is women have the influence over men more than men have the influence over men. And at the end of the day, you're talking about a situation where most men, you know,
Right.
especially in our African American community,
Right.
are raised by a single female. So everything that they know about, you know, how to deal with conflict and everything comes from the teaching of a woman who
You know
was
what?
over there.
I used to fight back when I heard that. I used to reject that, and it used to make me angry. And I would always say, well, if he was around, I wouldn't have to do it. But the bottom line is, because I look at my sons, and there's some things that I have done, and I look at one particular, that how he responds and how we communicate. And I'm like, he'll be that way with a woman, honestly, because of me. And that's really a hard pill to swallow.
People only know what they know.
Yeah.
It's like the adjective, you got to teach people how to treat you.
But
so
I
people
hate
treat
the
you
fact-
because of what they've learned from someone else.
But I hate the fact that I have to bear the brunt of that because their father decided not to be there.
But as you bear the front of
He
that,
decided not to be
keep
there.
this in mind though. This is where a lot of women are raising boys who are eventually going to become men. The hardest part that no woman can do, and I say this with all due respect to any single mother out here in the world, you cannot raise a man. That is something you can't. You're going to raise him up to a point where physically he looks like a man, but intuitively, and it's not. It's not in every situation. Okay, let me explain
I
this.
see men say that all the time.
I just-
There's certain things.
You cannot make a man, and then when I say, well, define what that is and lay it
So
out
I could
specifically what that means.
I can define what
no
it
one's
is.
able
Go
to
ahead.
do
I'll go
that.
after you. Go ahead.
I can define exactly what it is.
Okay.
When you look at the gang culture in America, the gang culture in America is deeply rooted in the fact that these boys are looking for family. And
Yeah.
trust and believe, all of those gang boys got a mama.
Yeah.
But the mama cannot give them what they need that other men can, and they start to seek out other men. And what happens is the influence and that pull about being around other men, that the streets start to raise them. And that is the problem.
But I don't think it's that boys join gangs because they're looking for father figures or other men. I think it's because
I've had this conversation with some of the biggest gang members.
really,
And I've
I
asked
think
them,
it's because there's a
and I've
lack of
asked them,
attention in the
and
house.
you know what they've all
Because
told me?
you have a mom that's not able to be there all the
See,
time.
but this is the problem. You're not listening to men.
I am listening.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, I've talked to them,
Yeah.
and these gang leaders will tell you, these kids are looking for family, and we give them a sense of belonging.
I agree
and
with
a sense
that.
of a family.
Right,
And
I'm
that's what
saying-
it. How do you think BMF got so big? BMF did not get to be
overnight.
so big because there was a bunch of boys that wasn't looking for family. They was
Right.
looking to be a part of something with
Right.
men and families. And before they know it, they turn around and they slinging.
Gangs-
I can agree with that. I can agree with
Gangs
that.
offer you something that most young boys don't
But
get at
hear,
home.
Hear me
Yeah.
out. What
is
they
that?
don't get at home is
A-
the attention.
A
It's
sense
that's
of belonging. A sense of belonging.
Most, okay,
But they don't belong at home.
Right, the
listen,
mama
listen.
doesn't-
Belonging means you. A lot of things are welcome to you. they open their arms up to a lot of women don't understand the plight of a young boy going into a man, and you're not going to understand that. The same way a father
because we
at
out here trying to
times.
provide
Let me finish though. The same way as you are a single mother who was raising, hold on, let me finish, a son. Now take the same plight of a father who was raising a daughter. There were certain things that his daughter is going to go through that he is not really going to understand. That is just the bottom line of it.
But do you ever hear somebody saying a single man can't raise a daughter? You never hear that.
But do you ever hear though? Do you?
No. But you never hear that.
I'm not here.
I never hear that.
You hear and you see it when she go to school and her hair look a certain way. And you be like, okay,
your daddy
you need a woman around it to help fix that hair.
Your moms can't comb the daughter's hair. I'm just saying, but you never hear it's more to raising a child than combing her hair.
It's just a narrative, but it's just an example of it.
But I'm just saying, you still never hear, in general,
same way you hear the same thing though. When it comes to Father's Day, you don't hear much about Father's Day, but you hear everything about Mother's Day.
I think
I'm gonna give you one example.
I'm just saying at the end of the day.
Listen, I'm gonna give you one example.
Okay.
Do you or do you not believe in the phrase "it takes a village"?
I definitely believe it.
Okay, so if you the mama that don't provide the village, where does the village come from?
What if she can't provide the
I'm
village?
just asking a question.
I hear what you're saying.
I'm just asking a question.
I get you.
Okay, well,
I
answer the
agree with
question.
you. But she
Answer
can't
the
provide.
question.
A village.
Answer the question. Let the words flow through your mouth.
Okay.
If you the mama,
Everybody be handling me on just
if you the mama,
Yes.
and you can't provide the village, where does the village come from?
The child will probably seek a village.
Exactly.
I told you I agree with that, but what I'm saying is you
Or
really.
the village seeks him.
That's true. But can we just out and out blame the mother
No, I'm not
who's
blaming
out
the mother.
here?
I'm not blaming the mother.
Okay, because what is she supposed to do?
Well,
Ain't
there's
nobody blaming
listen,
mama.
No, excuse me. There are things a mother can do, but not all mothers do.
So at what point
agree
are
with
the
you on
men that left their children responsible for that mother making that boy into the man?
Of course, 100%.
We hold on. If we hold on to that, like my mom, I'll be honest. One thing that was so funny, he was on the show. Somebody had said it, like he was raised by all women. I never once said I was raised by all women.
Yeah.
I said I grew up in a household of women. You see how people would take what you say and then flip it to a different.
That's
My
kind of
father was
silly,
in my
though.
life. You know what I'm saying? My father was in my life. My father picked me up. He did certain things. There's certain things that I know as a man. Then there were also things that I needed him to actually be in the house with me to understand, to see. Like my father, a man, old school, pays all the bills.
Right.
Wife would chip in for some of the bills. I didn't grow up in a household where I actually got to see my father pay bills.
Okay, so what I would like to do, will you, from your opinion, will you tell us what you think what defines toxic masculinity? Because I think that's what will help all of us understand where we're coming from.
Yeah, to me, it's an emotionally broken man. That's what it is. It could be just a lot of trauma that he's experienced that he has not worked through with a therapist.
Right.
And is projecting those traumas on other people. It could be women, it could be men, it could be children. But it's just basically, in my opinion, an emotionally broken man.
Okay.
Do you think women, the reason why this term or catchphrase is so popular, because I think a lot of women, at least that I know, myself included, we do the work. We can say, you know what, I'm screwed up. I keep picking the wrong man. I keep having these failed relationships. I keep getting my heart broken. What is wrong with me? What have I not dealt with? I have a therapist. Women go have therapists. We talk about it. We blast it online. It's like accepted, but I don't see that as much in men.
Men are gonna say, well, it's not accepted. It's like it makes us look weak or whatever. I mean, I hear that, but I just don't subscribe to it because I'm like, no one's forcing or stopping men from doing it. No one's stopping men from giving their opinion online. I see that too. We can't voice our opinion. No one's actually physically stopping you from doing that. Right. And no one's physically stopping you from going to get therapy either. Right. So it's either you want to like make changes, you see something is wrong, you're introspective, or you're not. And if people can just say, well, I'm just not introspective and I don't want to make any changes, then say that. You know what I mean? Say that instead of nothing's happening. Because there are things that are happening that are terrible.
But do you think it's prevalent?
I think so.
From our perspective. I would ask you to compare to, I won't even go 10 years ago, even though we finally did a decade. Yeah, let's do 10. Mm-hmm. Compare from 10 years ago, to black men from 10 years ago to black men now. Do you see a difference? And is the difference better now than it was then?
A difference in what behavior? Behavior,
accountability, basically, how can I say, getting more structure in
Black
their
men
lives.
don't cheat.
Now we ain't gonna go there. That'll be murdering that right there.
Black men don't cheat.
Girl, bye.
Kevin Hart said it.
Yeah.
They all said it.
Girl, bye.
Black men don't cheat.
Do I see, you know, my lens is, you know, social media, different groups, and also like just conversations I have with men in general. It could be wherever I am, in the airport, a restaurant, wherever, and just I'll strike up a conversation. It does seem like there's a little shift, meaning, yeah.
No, I'm listening.
It does.
Don't let my
seem
wild
like
stop
there's
you.
a little shift in people, you know, wanting to be more accountable and actually taking, you know, ownership of the things that are wrong with them and doing something about it. So whether that's like personally motivated or it's motivated by a woman, I do see a slight change.
I see a shift. You didn't think I was gonna say that, did you?
See a shift in what?
In men,
For the better?
for the better.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
And do you?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How would you see a shift?
What do you mean?
Without dating 100 men, how could you make that statement like I see a shift?
Our lens is social media.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah, I
social
date.
media is
I
so
date,
fake.
so.
Like we can't go by social media.
think social
And that
media's
goes
fake.
back to what he's trying to say. It's y'all are looking at social media and judging men as a whole based upon social media.
So I mentioned
and most
social
people
media,
on social
and
media.
I also mentioned having conversations. So I mentioned both. So for me, it's dating and having conversations.
But
just with
I
men
thought
in
that was
general.
Interaction.
understood. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't just base
Common energy.
my
That's not
thoughts on
basic.
men on social media.
But
I'm saying when you're
social
looking
media
at
is our
groups
people's lives.
of
Yeah.
people, when you're looking at groups of people and social media, my major's in sociology, my degree's in sociology. But social media has made it easier to conduct research, as you know,
So to
not
speak,
real.
but is it accurate?
It's not real research, but what I'm saying is it's made it easier to interact with groups of people. It's made it easier to engage with groups of people and to hear what they say and what they think and where they stand. I mean, I got out of all Facebook groups a few years ago. I happened to get into another Facebook group. I was
those are
put
the
into a
worst.
Facebook. You know what Facebook group I'm talking about?
Is it for the party?
Girl,
The
yes,
party.
child. But
Oh, we talking about the
yeah, but you get
okay.
a snapshot of where people are, because the group is turned into nothing but about men and women in
And
relationships and why
relationships,
women this and why women this and
Who's
it's
gonna pay
it's-
for
and
this?
it's mostly men posting.
It's really, that's what I say though. When you get this over and over, and every day you wake up and you seeing this and you seeing it, it's like they say, some stuff will break you down, and you eventually start to believe the BS that is being presented to
I
you.
believe it's manifest destiny. Like we believe all of this stuff that we
I
see,
don't.
and so we begin to live it out.
But see, you have to look at certain people live outside of social media.
Of
That's why
course.
a lot of, but everybody doesn't. Let's be real.
God.
Let's be
But we
real.
only-
Especially in this
that's
city
not my
alone.
experience. I don't.
That's not everybody.
I mean, sure. I mean,
Okay,
yeah.
when we talk about Atlanta is Black Hollywood, correct?
Yeah.
How many people have we ever seen before that swear they got this, they got that, they got this, and everything else, and at the end of the day, they have nothing?
You think that's just Atlanta?
No, what I am saying, listen to what I said, Atlanta is Black Hollywood.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about the Black community right now. So a lot of things that happen are really based off what goes on in Atlanta. Whether or not you want to believe it at times, Atlanta does control a lot of the scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know
I
what
see
I'm
you're
saying? So in that aspect, when you get fake and this and that thrown at you all the time, it's hard for you to go into the dating scene. It's hard for you to believe that a man will step up as a father when you've seen the BS firsthand sometimes.
But that's not my experience.
Everybody's experience is different. That's what I said. At the end of the day, it is some things that are presented to you. If it's not presented to you, then nah, by no means.
Well, Atlanta is the home of the $30,000 millionaire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You said
That's
you said
what?
$30,000
I
millionaire.
I like
that's
that.
true.
I have
I
never
like
heard.
that.
That's good.
I like that. I like
That's
that.
That's good right there. It really is.
That's a straight shirt
Oh,
right
it
there.
really
though.
is.
No, it
Yeah.
is. It is.
$30,000 millionaire.
But you know, it's difficult when you talk about the toxic masculinity. You're really talking about a subject of men that are trying to portray something that they're probably not.
That's good.
That's
Okay,
very true.
and
That's
and
good.
they're trying to portray something they're not. The real deal is that a lot of the men who try to portray this masculine side do not come from a masculine household, because if they did, they would know how to control it. And the bottom line is, as men, we're taught, gangsters move in silence.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day, we're taught that like a real man doesn't have to say it; he just does it. You know, we're taught that you don't have to be loud in a room to be noticed. So when you see that, that's an exaggeration.
So there was,
that's true.
over the last 10, 15 years, there was this onslaught of men who make a living off of coaching women. You know, how to be in relationships, how to handle a man. The reason why you aren't this is because you are like this. For men. So my thing is, when will men begin like focusing on men like that? Because you don't see a lot of self-help coaches that are men who are trying to coach other men.
It's
It's always, you know, what women need
coaching
to do.
work though.
No, I'm about to say, culturally based. You know what? When I first started out, I was surrounded by men who actually didn't believe that you could get to the next level without doing something else. You know what I'm saying? You gotta keep your hands dirty to make some money. You gotta do this, you gotta do that. As you begin to put yourself in, networking and meeting other people, and they getting to know you, they elevate you. Men will elevate you. I will not say they won't, but it's a certain thing before a man will open the door for another man. You know what I'm saying? He's got to make sure that who you are and what you say you are is truly who you are. And I think a lot of times when it comes to us, it's hard for us to give compliments to another. Now I have people when I talk, like we said, social media based, I like to say good things about black men that I know. It's very hard for black men to congratulate another brother. Just to take time out and say, you know what, before I do anything, I wanted to give a shout out to my man for doing this and doing that. That means a lot when it comes from a man, because nowadays everything is, man, if it's not metrosexual, it's of that nature.
That's a whole different subject, but that whole defining what manhood is, or what makes a man, or what masculinity is, I think that's so problematic.
But see, you can only call it problematic because you're not a man.
No, I think it's problematic, period. Not because I'm not a man, because you're defining, you know, a man opening a door for another man as like that's a problem, or a man complimenting. That's problematic.
Yeah,
that men don't feel comfortable. It's problematic. For me, I just think it is. So I want to read something I saw online from this website. It's a page that I follow, and it's called Kinfolk Collective. So I want to give credit where credit is due. And she said, and I don't necessarily agree with this, I just thought it was appropriate. Y'all men love telling women they have daddy issues, but the T is y'all have daddy and mommy issues, which is true because y'all alluded to it. Daddy and mommy issues. You're mad at your father for abandoning you, and you're mad at your mama for not choosing a better father. So you go through life mistreating and using women because you really want to punish your mother. And a lot of your fathers are nowhere to be found, or emotionally they're unavailable. Thus you can't cry to them about feeling lost, abandoned, and unworthy as a child. So you walk around angry and hurt, screaming how you don't trust nobody. That goes back to how you define toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
But now answer this question.
Now is that kind of like out there for y'all, or like y'all
that's
like no?
It's a little far fetched for me. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna be real, because the same woman who wrote it, I asked these simple questions. Does she have sons? Because the scenario always changes when you have a son. Because if she is putting something like that on paper, but still doing the same thing, like a woman who will argue in front of her son and call their father, he ain't nothing, he ain't this, he ain't that.
Explain who she is.
I'm not saying, I'm just speaking, you know what I'm saying, in general. Because a lot of times I have noticed, like, I cut hair. Just one thing that I do. But I deal with a lot of single mothers. And I watch a lot of single mothers with their sons. The ones that I have, a lot of my clientele, they're very well, but they have their fathers. Their father will come and bring them, you know what I'm saying? Or the girl's father will bring them. But that environment right there that you're bringing your son into, that's a man's world. At the end of the day, bar none. When I grew up, my mother never took me to the shop, you know what I'm saying, to a barbershop. She wanted to take us to a friend's place, but when it came to it, that is, if my father couldn't take me, we don't go. You know what I'm saying? That is nowadays a mother get mad at a father, bring the son in there, tell the barber the father didn't do X, Y, and Z, and the son is sitting right there in the chair.
I've seen that.
Well, I used to get angry that I had to take my son to the barbershop because I grew up like that. I'm like, why am I taking him to the barbershop?
Though, regardless if you say nothing bad
what
about
I'm saying is I'm agreeing with you. Like, I wish their father would have stepped up, and why am I the only mother sitting up in this barbershop?
What's your village?
I mean, when I was in Tennessee, we had a village. My brothers would do it. My dad would do it. But when I moved to Atlanta, well, they were teenagers when I moved back to Atlanta. But the fact is, even when they were little, you know, my village, I mean, I can't expect my brother, my dad to be there every time my kids needed a haircut. So there were times where they couldn't take, because they had a life. They had stuff they got to do.
No, they don't.
Okay. Well, I'm
just telling you. You gotta
get what you're saying.
Sometimes.
I get what you're saying.
Like at the end of the day, there is.
I guess I would rather them look nice and neat than wait till their schedule to come.
But I get what you're saying. But what goes back to what I said earlier.
Right.
It's unfortunate, and our children lose in all situations all the way around, because we're so busy being us that we don't always get to make the certain sacrifices we need to make for them. You know what I mean? So a sacrifice is, even if you a mama that don't believe in church, you still gonna take your kid to church, because that becomes a very viable village that you have access to.
No.
You know?
No.
Why not?
You can get a village without going to church. You do know that, though, right?
Yeah,
you can. I agree. I had that village because I grew up in the church.
And listen, I get what you're saying. But what happens is, we can systematically as a people, we can cut out so much of our culture because of whatever reason, that by the time you look back at it, we have no culture at all.
Yeah.
And the problem that happens in Atlanta is Atlanta's a very culturally empty city.
Oh, I agree.
Culturally,
it has no face.
Totally agree.
It has no face.
It has no face.
Totally agree.
So understand what I'm saying. So
totally
if you're in
agree.
a city that has no culture, how do you think anything's going to turn out?
Yeah.
Your
totally
dating,
agree.
your relationship,
Yeah.
your children.
Yeah.
Atlanta ain't the best city to move to raise a family.
I never thought
Atlanta's
about that
not the
either.
best city to move to raise a family.
You're
And
absolutely
sometimes
right.
when you're really committed to your kids, you got to say, okay, what's the best for them?
Right.
You know, I give you an example. I
agree
argue
with
with
that.
parents right away. I'd be like, why you move over here?
Yeah.
Like, you already know the schools suck. Why would you move over here?
Right.
Well, because it's more convenient for me to get to work. The house is cheaper. Whatever.
Yeah.
All that's
I
excuses.
want that, mama. I inconvenience myself.
At the end of the day, you gonna live what's best for your kids.
Absolutely.
Because your responsibility is to your kids first.
Once you have.
And what happens is we're dealing in a generation of people
Yeah.
who are so concerned, like you said, the moms that bring in there and talk about
Yeah.
because there's so much about them that they don't realize the effect they're having on their kids, which turns back around to what you're saying about actually the kids have a problem with their mama and whatever. And
I think there's some validity to this statement. I think there's a lot.
Sometimes some of it is. It's far from the same way you said a minute ago. You was like, well, I don't understand that because that's not me.
Right.
The same way she said that, I don't understand that because that wasn't
your
experience. That was my experience.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up, my grandmother raised 10 kids in a projects. And it was a 3-bedroom. She had 10 kids, 5 boys, 5 girls. And then when they left, they came back with their kids. And we were all underneath the same roof until a certain time. So when people say, oh, you know, you a mama's boy, you acted like this. No, I had uncles who came there who knew. You know what? Where Chick at? Oh, he not supposed to be over there. Well, I'll go get him. No, I got him packed. Don't worry about it. I'll go get that boy. You know, that's the difference. Nowadays, as you just said, Frank, he was mentioning to you, sometimes your brothers could have paused and said, you know what I mean?
I'm
not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just using you as an
I had the
example.
best village. I left my village.
I'm not saying anything bad about your family. I'm just saying in general is that you look for it, and sometimes moms, because I watch my mom. My mom would cry at night and wouldn't think we knew.
Yeah.
She would literally cry at night and didn't think that we knew. And we would literally sit there sometimes, and me and my sister could hear my mom crying. We knew why she was crying, you know what I'm saying? Because of the situation that she brought us into. But to be that strong black woman, she wasn't going to break. She was going to be 10 times harder on me than my dad was on me, you know? And I think sometimes that's where moms mess up, is that a father at times is not always a disciplinarian. You know what I'm saying? But the father strikes fear. And fear stops you from doing a lot of things.
And that's why I say it goes back to, it's the breakdown of the family. It's not just, I just think women bear the brunt of what's wrong with our black family, our black culture, our black boys. Women bear the brunt. Of course, it goes to them, but when the men leave us out there to fend for ourselves, and so we have to become provider, disciplinarian, and everything else, what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do?
The level of etiquette in any community can be defined by its women.
That's true.
Period.
But so the men have
level of
no
etiquette.
responsibility in that circle, though.
No, what happens is the women set the standard. So what happens is when the women's standards go lower, then the men accept the lower standard, and they go to the lower
I
standard.
agree with that.
100%.
I agree with that. I agree with that, though. I agree with that.
But at the same time, we're talking about toxic masculinity, but you ain't talking about the degradation of women in the community that you have the power to affect. It's very easy for her to talk about men, but it's harder for her to talk about another woman because they'll come for her. See, a man, we
they
can't.
come for me.
No, not you.
This is all generalization.
I'm talking about the women.
He just talking about women.
No. I'm talking about the woman who wrote what you said.
Oh.
See, what happens is, as a man, we can't come for a woman because then we're out of place.
Okay. But I agree.
A woman can come for a woman, and a lot of times.
But I believe that's the right order. It should be though.
I agree.
But you know what woman comes for
point,
women though? Sister Iyanla.
Oh yeah.
She'll come for us. She gets both sides. She's Iyanla.
The lady on TV.
I'll give you one suggestion because I know you're rapping for time.
Yeah.
I'll give you one suggestion because we talked about it earlier. You know what I think could save the black community?
What?
If they really turned and focused on
I was about to ask you, what's the solution?
sororities and fraternities. Because if every fraternity brother got on his brother that didn't pay child support, trust me, there would be a lot of change. If women in the sororities and fraternities that had that education and culture.
In these organizations?
But I'm saying, I'm just talking about the fact that you have so many numbers. If sororities and fraternities in their numbers in the Panhellenic Council said, we're going to do this and we're going to take on this initiative to help, and women became mentors and men became mentors, we got the village in the organization. If it ain't going to be the church, the next best thing is that. Okay. Because you don't have another set of intelligent, qualified, learned folks than you do than sororities and fraternities. Y'all are the best of what we got.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that. Well, guys, this has been a great conversation. It could continue, but I know that I don't want to go in circles, but this has really been good. It's just we can pick it up and take this conversation in all types of directions. But I really want to thank you, Frank, for coming in today. I want to thank you, Keisha.
You hurt my feelings.
Oh, I hurt your feelings. Oh, what did I do?
But I did say though, you was moving a little bit like the dope man, a little bit. Frank was coming. I mean, at 15.
I didn't say that.
I said it.
Oh.
I said it in a funny way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, just hashing it. Be sure to subscribe. Click the notification bell.
5380 Studios.
5380 Studios. We gotta shout them out. This is where the magic happened. If you needed a podcast, 5380 Studios is where it's at. Join us next week here on Just Hashing It.